All right, we are live. Thank you everyone for joining the Giving to Make an Impact live chat hosted by UpDayton, the Dayton Foundation, and Dayton Inspires. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. My name is Laura Estandia. I'm the Executive Director of UpDayton, and I'm also going to be the moderator for this chat. So before we get started with introductions, we have a great group of panelists here today. Just want to go through the rules of how things are kind of going to work out here. We're going to have some time for some planned questions for most of the chat, and then about 15 minutes to the end of the hour at 1 o'clock, we will be taking questions two ways from the audience. So if you're following along on today's chat on the YouTube page, you can comment in the comment section on the Dayton Foundation page, and we'll be answering your questions on there. We're also taking questions from Twitter feed if you're using the hashtag YP4good. So that's hashtag YP4good if you want to ask a question on Twitter. So without further ado, I'd like to get started introducing our panelists. So first we have Olivia. Olivia is a reporter for the Dayton Business Journal and also one of the brains behind Dayton Inspires, a new grassroots effort developed to inspire Daytonians to have pride in our city. Olivia created this effort as a way to give back to the community after getting involved with UpDayton. Yay! After only 2 years in Dayton, Olivia has found her niche by giving her time, talents, and treasure to UpDayton, Big Brothers Big Sisters, and the Victory Project. Thanks for joining us, Olivia. All right, great. Next we have Joe Baldasare. And Joe is the Vice President of Development at the Dayton Foundation and has over 30 years of experience in non-for-profit organizational management and gift planning. Joe has earned the Certified Fundraising Executive designation by the Certified Fundraising Executive International. Joe, thank you for joining us today.
Laura, it's my pleasure to be here. Looking forward to answering some questions and hopefully sharing some things about the Dayton Foundation.
Awesome, thank you, Joe. Next up, we have Angela, who is a Major Gifts Officer for the Boonshoft School of Medicine at Wright State University. Angela has a wealth of experience in assisting donors, advisors, and not-for-profit organizations with their charitable planning. She also gives back to the community by serving on several boards, including the Dayton Metro Library Foundation, the Karen Dia Kennedy Scholarship Fund, Miami Valley Hospital, and the Food Bank. Angela, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and next up we have Jamie Schade. Jamie is the Senior Vice President of Wealth Management and Senior Financial Advisor for Merrill Lynch. Jamie specializes in helping small business owners and high net worth families grow and protect their wealth. As a community leader, Jamie has volunteered for nearly a decade with Hospice of Dayton's annual golf outing, where he serves as chair and presenting sponsor. Jamie and his wife are also longtime supporters of many charitable organizations and have opened a charitable checking account through the Dayton Foundation to help facilitate their giving. Jamie, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, Laura. Thank you guys for taking the risk of having me on this.
Anytime. That's why we're doing this chat thing. You know, we can always like cut you off if we need to. Anyway, I would like to remind our listeners that you can tweet your questions to us at hashtag YP4good. You can also submit questions in the comment box. And just so you know, this live chat is being recorded, so if you know of someone who couldn't attend today's live chat, immediately following this chat, it will be available on the Dayton Foundation's YouTube channel if you want to share it with anyone who you think would want to know more about charitable giving and ways that they can give back. So without further ado, we're going to jump into questions, and this first one is for Joe.
Okay.
And Joe, what impact do you think young professionals can have on shaping our community's future?
Great question. Young professionals can have a tremendous impact on their community, and primarily it's because the Dayton community has really changed a lot. If you looked at the Dayton community 20 years ago, there were Fortune 500 companies, there were champions in the community, champions like Virginia Kettering, like Jesse Phillips and John Barry Sr. And these folks were really concerned about their community, and what they would do is if issues came about, they would get their friends together, they would address community issues, and they would be able to address those changes. Young professionals now are really where are needed to take their place. We have huge issues in our community, and it's just really important that the young professionals step up and take their place of these past champions.
Great. Thank you very much, Joe. Olivia, you're a young professional in our community, and you're an example of a young professional that does give back to our community. What are some of the greatest needs that you see young professionals supporting, or what needs do you see that are out there that would be really great for young professionals to support?
I'm speaking mostly off of my experience with what I've gotten involved in so far, and a big need in the community is for education support and mentoring, and that can be anywhere from working with at-risk kids to just mentoring others that are slightly behind you in your career, maybe they're college students or something like that, or high school students. But yeah, mentoring and education, there's a lot of groups you can get involved with. Big Brothers Big Sisters is a direct mentoring program. There's others where you may be involved with a bigger group or something, or volunteering at an after-school program or something like that. And similarly, there's groups that use sports to help inspire kids and teach them a lot of leadership and teamwork and stuff like that. And it's a great way for young professionals to get involved because they're usually a little bit more active and maybe not that far out playing sports in high school. And also a really big thing that I'm really passionate about is being an advocate for the region and speaking up about what you are passionate about and how you're succeeding in the Dayton region and what you love about the region, and just being a better local. I think that's a real big thing that young professionals can add to the area is supporting it, supporting local shops, and just speaking up about what they love instead of talking negatively about the region, which has kind of been the tradition in Dayton.
Awesome. Angela, do you have any other comments that you would like to make about that change of that question?
I would echo that. I had a young professional reach out to me. He had recently graduated from college and came back to the area and really felt like he couldn't find a place to fit in, or there was nothing for him to do. After my conversation, I talked to him a little bit about UpDayton, Generation Dayton, a lot of the leadership programs, and told him that he needed to seek those organizations out and get involved. He did that and is extremely happy about being back in Dayton. The other thing is we discussed what his other interests beyond his professional career were, and he told me that he had played baseball in college. And so through our conversations and through research, he was able to connect with a local Little League organization. And so now he's coaching and extremely happy to be back in the area. So what I would encourage young professionals to do is figure out what their passions are and seek out those organizations that they could give back to. And they'll have a more satisfying time here in Dayton.
Thank you, Angela. That's really great advice. And I think that following your passion is very important when we talk about giving, and there are a lot of really great causes out there. Joe, could you speak to finding a good charity and really picking out those organizations that are going to have the most impact? What advice do you have?
Well, I think all young professionals should take a look at the different organizations that are out there that speak to them. And what I mean by speaking to them is referring where is your passion. And once you find an organization that tweaks your interest and you're very passionate about, it's important to do some research. Do some research about whether or not it's the right organization for you. And how you find out about that is that you go to their website first thing, no question about it. But there's nothing wrong with making a visit to an organization unannounced that you want to come in, see how they do business, and whether or not they're providing the kind of services that you expected them to. And then the other thing that I would suggest is that if you have friends and peers who are involved with that organization, ask them what their impressions have been, that type of thing. And then lastly, you want to make sure that it's a very sound organization structurally. And one way that you can determine that is you can go to GuideStar, www.guidestar.com will give you information on a nonprofit organization, who's on their board, what their mission is, how they stand financially, and that type of thing. And those are some things that you'll want to know before you get involved with a nonprofit organization.
I think that's really great advice, especially talking about just visiting their website or making a personal visit, asking friends, looking at GuideStar. That's really, really good advice for IPs, I think. This next question is for Jamie. We haven't heard from Jamie yet. So Jamie, would you say that getting involved in the nonprofit community has helped you professionally? And if so, how has it done that?
That's a great question, and I will tell you that at the end of the day, I was always told by mentors that getting involved would be helpful, and I honestly was maybe not convinced. I'm a marked man in the community. I'm one of many people that invest money for others, and so being a marked man and being a sales-oriented person, it gave me the opportunity to grow my network, to get visibility, and to just do something for our community that would really help. And it's interesting in my business, I always like to say it is business, but it's very personal because we're interacting with people about their financial lives. So at the end of the day, it's helped me so much just because I'm able to work for a common good in the Miami Valley, and I'm not approaching people and asking them to invest with us. So I can tell you that I got involved about 12 years ago, and I had no idea and maybe some doubts about whether getting involved would help. It's been unbelievable. I could go on for a lot of time, and you guys would want to cut me off if I started talking about examples of people that I've met through some of our organizations.
Well, tell us about at least one of those people.
Well, I can't name them, but I can name the organization. Hospice of Dayton is an organization I got very involved in about 12 years ago. We started a golf outing, something I kind of like to do. And the examples going on, but some of their board members, some of their employees, their executive team, some of their volunteers. It's absolutely incredible how many people that I've met through that organization are now clients of ours. And I wouldn't trade the experience for anything in my career because I've met some great people, had some great interactions. It's obviously helped my team and our business. And it's just been a win as far as the eye can see. I feel like maybe I'll get to heaven someday because I've tried so hard to help other people with end-of-life care and stuff like that through our annual fundraiser.
Well, thank you for that, Joe. Certainly, giving to get into heaven is, a great thing.
Someday.
But it does really help your career, and it does help you network and meet a lot of good people that align with your interests. And I think that that's definitely one of my reasons for getting involved and wanting to give back to the community are some of those reasons. So, speaking about following your passion, sometimes you have a lot of passions and you want to support more than one thing. So I'd like to throw it back to Angela and ask, how do you personally manage contributing to more than one organization or more than one passion?
I learned this lesson the hard way. Because I'm very involved in the community, you get quite a few asks to participate in organizations. So I quickly realized that I had to be selective about the organizations that I'm personally involved with. So first and foremost, I have to figure out if there's a passion or an interest of mine personally before I get involved with an organization. And if there isn't, I am more than willing to help them identify somebody else who may be more interested, because for me, I just don't want to be a board member that's periodic as far as attending board meetings and not being passionate and connected with the organization. So for me, I have to have a personal interest in the organization and their mission, and not always being on the board. I mean, I'm on quite a few boards. However, I make sure that I find time to give back to organizations where I can give financially as well as volunteer my time. So for me, I am very conscious and aware of how much time and how many organizations I get connected with. So first and foremost, I look to make sure it fits my passion and interests, as well as if they're a financially stable organization. And I also ask, what are you asking of me to do? Because you want to make sure that before you make a commitment to an organization that you can meet the needs that they have as well, so that it's a win-win for both parties. So those would be the three things that I've looked for before getting connected with an organization.
Angela, I think you bring up a really great point, especially as someone who runs a very small nonprofit and has a really awesome, engaged board. You know, I've been a part of nonprofits that have had board members that really were not very engaged, and, you know, we're kind of there to be on, you know, as a resume builder, things of that nature. So I do think that that's really important for, you know, not only your time to feel valuable, you know, being on a board, but also to benefit the nonprofit. You know, they want the most engaged people to be on their boards, you know, giving their time and giving their donations. So I think that you bring up a really important point. Olivia, would you also like to comment on how you manage, you know, being involved in several different organizations?
That's always been a factor in my life, because from college on, I've always been very involved. It's just a question of priorities and finding things that line up with what you enjoy doing and what you're already doing. So I find that I've ended up being connected with a lot of people that I work with and that I talk to for stories for the Dayton Business Journal. So we literally can be getting stuff done for Dayton Inspires while I'm also talking to them and learning about what's happening in the Dayton community so I can write about it. So for me, there's some nice links there, and just making sure that it's something that you enjoy. And so if you leave work and you went to the thing that you're volunteering with and that took up your entire evening, and you get home, do you feel like you had the rest that you needed away from work? So, and if you did, and if it was a good, you feel like fulfilled, then you'll be okay with the fact that that took up, you know, all of your evening, and you're not trying to cram in also like doing something else that wasn't chill or whatever.
Yeah, cool. Olivia, I'm gonna stick with you and ask you another question. You know, even you and I have kind of talked before about, you know, millennials really want to feel very invested in their giving and actually see an impact. And would you say that the same is for you? And, you know, what's important for you to see when you're talking about having an impact? What have you found fulfilling? What was kind of reflected back to you that made you know that you had an impact?
I have had a big desire to see my talent being used by a nonprofit or a group that I'm getting involved with. And so what I'm talking about is sometimes you get asked to volunteer for something, and it really just involves standing and holding a door and pointing your finger and telling people, walk this way, and then they're like, yay, thank you for volunteering. And you're like, really, that, I know I did something helpful, but anybody could have done that. So the type of volunteering that really makes me feel invested is when I feel like my ideas were useful, and the time I spent planning something was directly impacted the success of whatever it was. So I found that getting involved with something where you know there is an opportunity for creativity and for thinking about things and bringing in your connections is really good. And then also making sure that the end cause is something that you're passionate about, and you actually take the time to go to some of the events where you get to see what you've done. Like in college, I was super involved with Dance Marathon, which was raising money for the Children's Hospital, and we spent a lot of time at the fundraising events where we were doing all the work, and then we had optional events where you could go into the hospital and meet some of the kids that we were helping who eventually received some of the funding that we've been raising. And those events were optional, and they didn't impact whether or not we made more money and helped these kids. So sometimes it was like, oh, the temptation is just like to sleep, because I was desperately needing that in college. But it was always so worth it when I went and was able to get reconnected and see the direct impact of what we were doing. So I would recommend getting involved with a cause where you can see that, and also sometimes going out of your way to make sure you do actually see that, because it will re-energize you for the work that you're doing.
I think that definitely seeking some re-energy is definitely a very good thing, because even your time is certainly worth it. It's very, very valuable. Jamie, I'd also like to throw this question to you, if I could, just to refresh. We're talking about kind of how you feel fulfilled when you are giving. Kind of what makes you feel like your gift or the gift of your time made an impact.
That's a great question. I think at the end of the day, I've never met a not-for-profit that didn't desire to have more money. So what I enjoy is the challenge of going for the ask for our golf outing every year. It's intimidated me a lot over the years. I think I recognize how hard it is for people to save money and grow money. And actually, one of the first times I went for the ask, I was told by the person I was pitching that I was terrible. And then
That's like
person,
the fundraiser's worst nightmare.
Well, you know, I knew I was bad, so it didn't hurt that much. Actually, after he told me how poor I was, he said, "You're giving me the opportunity to give back. You're not asking for yourself. You're giving me a chance to support the community that I love. Don't apologize for that." And so it's a good thing I didn't ask him for a specific dollar amount, because he ended up giving so much more than I ever imagined. So I put myself in that vulnerable position. It was very uncomfortable. I got the feedback I knew was true but didn't want. And yet our organization, our Hospice of Dayton's golf outing, essentially was born out of that meeting.
Wow, that is a really awesome story, and congratulations.
I've gotten a little better, but I'm still bad.
I have another comment.
At least you're trying. I think you brought up a really good point that, when you're asking for money, it's not really about you, it's about the cause and about the organization. So kind of taking your own ego out of that and asking to support the cause, I think, is a really, really important point that you made. And speaking about supporting organizations and why that's important, kind of the big picture focus here, Joe, I'd like to direct this question to you.
Sure.
Why are nonprofits important for any community? And specifically,
nonprofits are an integral part of the community that you choose to live in. I always tell people who said, "I got the greatest job and I'm going to move to this town," and I said, "Well, what are you going to do the other 16 hours a day? Is it a good community, that type of thing? Because I know you're going to be at work for 8 hours. Well, what's the community like?" So why nonprofits are integral parts of the community is because they address community issues. They address issues that potentially will help your community be a better place, a place where you prefer to live. The nonprofits in our community address issues like health, human services, the arts, animal welfare, education, and just a variety of things. And if it weren't for the nonprofit organizations, our quality of life in the communities that we choose to live in would be far less than what they are today. And nonprofits not only do these things independent of others, but they do them in collaboration with other entities. Individuals will support nonprofit organizations because they want to make their community better. Nonprofit organizations, in turn, will collaborate and partner with government entities to make the community better. They will partner with they'll partner with businesses who want the place where they have their businesses to be a better community. So nonprofits are just critical and integral parts of making for a better community, to eradicate issues and to address some things that need to be addressed in their community. The last part of this is, which is real interesting, that if it were not for nonprofit organizations who step in and fill a lot of needs that exist in the community, government would have to do all of these things. So try to imagine what kind of taxes you would pay if you paid taxes to improve the arts, to improve healthcare, education, and all the other things that we talk about. So nonprofits are just a real critical part of our community.
And sometimes when you give, you get a tax break. Yay!
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly, which is a good thing. So thank you for touching on, why nonprofits are really important for our community, and we are all here because we believe in supporting our community and in giving back. So this kind of question is for everyone. Why is it important to give back to the Dayton region specifically? And Olivia, we'll start with you and just go down the line here. There we go.
Giving back makes you feel a lot more connected to your community, and you'll find that you get so much more out of the community by giving back. I mean, partly just from the things that you learn about that you wouldn't have known about otherwise when you kind of stay stuck in your own routine and you meet people. But you also know that you're helping create a better community. Hopefully you're involved in something that directly relates to what you would like to see be better in your community, and you feel like you're helping. And it's a way to use talents that maybe aren't being tapped into with your 9-to-5 job or whatever. So it's really important.
Cool. Thank you, Olivia. Angela, would you like to comment? Sure.
It's vital to the vitality of the community that we all get engaged and that we give back. They always say it's better to give than to receive. For me, once I've gotten involved with organizations, selfishly, when I leave, so oftentimes I think, wow, I think I gained more than what I gave. Getting involved with organizations, you feel so good about what you've done, and so oftentimes you realize that if it wasn't for yourself and other people like you in the community, these organizations wouldn't exist and the needs wouldn't be met. For example, the homeless. I mean, where would the homeless go? We do a great job with the homeless community here in Dayton, Ohio. I visited other communities and I was astounded by the homelessness there. And for us to be such a small community, we really reach out and we meet that homeless community, the needs that are there. So for me, I feel that it's important. We can't, as Joe mentioned, rely on the government to do 100% of it. And instead of complaining about what's not being done, it's up to us to engage and help others, whether it's giving of our finances or donating our time. But Dayton is a great community, and I think we do a great job of giving back, and it's why we're the city we are today.
Awesome. Thank you, Angela. Jamie, would you also like to comment on why it's important to give in Dayton?
Sure, I always like to comment. I agree completely with what my panelist just said. At the end of the day, it is amazing when you give and you invest your time and your money behind a cause. I can think of, in my personal experience, 10 years ago, there were a lot of people involved with Hospice of Dayton that I didn't know. Now I look at them as my family. The CEO, the president of the foundation, the chief financial officer, the director of human resources, the volunteers, so many other employees. They're like my family. I identify myself, my friendships. My wife and I have so much fun just getting to know some great people in our Miami Valley community. So at the end of the day, it's amazing. The community's better. I'm better. I'm a better person. And the benefits are just nearly endless in a sense. So it's very important.
That's great. Sounds like you found a great community with those that you're giving to. That's awesome. Joe, any final thoughts? Wrap up on this question.
Yeah, what comes to mind is the old adage of leave the world a better place. Give because you want to create a better world. Pay it forward is another saying that I think of, and by doing that, you make the world a better place, not only for you, but for those who follow you. We have children and a younger population who's going to be around a long time. So do what you can to make the world a better place, and you can do that by giving of your time, giving of your talents, and giving of your treasures, making a donation. So I think that's the key. Make your community a better place. It doesn't necessarily have to be the world, but make the block you live on a better place by giving to a nonprofit organization, whatever you can do to help.
Great thoughts, Joe. We're at about the half-hour mark now. For anyone that joined the chat late, I just want to remind you that you can make comments down below in the comment box. If you have questions, any of them that you want to direct to our panelists, just let us know your name, what organization you're with, and what question you want to ask. You can also follow us on Twitter using the hashtag YP4Good. So that's YP, the number 4, good. In about 15 minutes, we'll be taking some more questions off of those feeds. So thank you again for joining us. We have quite an elaborate setup here at the Dayton Foundation. So anyway, it's been a lot of fun so far. So next question I'd like to kind of talk about, speaking of social media and all of that. Whatever, my generation, I guess, are kind of, have kind of like moving along social media and kind of shaping what that is and how that's talked about in our community. And with that said, can social media be used to support an organization? And if so, how and what ways can you do that? Olivia, I want to direct that question to you.
Sure. Social media is a great way to spread awareness, and that's its primary function. And depending on the nonprofit or the group that you're talking about, sometimes that awareness can be really tied to the mission. So you can be producing videos that really showcase exactly what you do, and people can watch those and share those and be really impacted and really motivated to give. I've definitely seen that happen. You can think about the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. That was a really cool example of how social media helps spread the word. But one thing that I noticed that was very interesting, there was a shift kind of, I think it had been going around for about a month, and the way that it was phrased was, dump this bucket of ice on yourself or you have to donate. And after about a month, it changed to, dump a bucket of ice on yourself and donate. Yay! Because somewhere along the line, people started thinking, all we're doing is wasting water. And that we're spreading awareness, sure, but we're not actually like necessarily helping. So that was an interesting shift to see that one way that social media was being used very effectively to spread awareness, but people started realizing, hey, we can do more with this, and actually call people out on giving.
Cool. Really good thoughts. And that definitely was a huge social media campaign that's good to touch on. Good thoughts about that. Angela, would you like to comment on this question of social media and young professionals?
Sure. At the Boonshoff School of Medicine at Wright State, we've used Facebook to educate our younger alumni about activities that are happening at the Boonshoff School of Medicine. And we've also encouraged them to give back of their time as well as their finances by mentoring other medical students, attending reunion weekend, giving donations to our white coat ceremony. We have some of our young alums who, although they're doctors, they have quite a bit of debt and may not have the capacity to give thousands of dollars, but they can make a $100 contribution to buy another medical student a white coat. So we quickly learned that, we have all these printed material and it's beautiful and we send it out, but a lot of our younger professionals may not use those tools. Some of them may, but we realized that a lot of them were on Facebook, a lot of them were on Twitter and Instagram. So it was our job to get involved and get educated and get out there and educate our community. I learned the hard way. My husband and I run a small nonprofit basketball organization, and we were making up flyers to tell people about tryouts. A lot of the parents are young professionals, and my nephew said, "Oh, Aunt Angie, nobody does flyers anymore. You have to go on Facebook and Instagram to educate everybody. So I quickly learned that those type of media are very important to reaching a certain population. So it's very important in educating the young professionals about nonprofits in town.
Awesome. And I think you mentioned something about, you know, you have a lot of young medical students that have a lot of debt, you know, but how do we still get them to give back? And this is kind of a question I'm spawning off.
Okay.
Jamie, if you're, you know, a financial advisor,
Mhm.
you know, what advice do you have for folks who, you know, might be dealing with a lot of debt, but especially student debt, especially for young people, but still want to give back and have an impact? Do you have any, you know, tips for how they can go about doing that?
Well, it's a good question. I think at the end of the day, the way that you make a contribution in your life changes a lot over your entire life. So I would tell somebody, if you're in debt because you're at Wright State or UD or one of these great schools, focus on doing what's right for you. So commit your financial resources to moving on and getting beyond that point in your life. So what I would tell somebody that's young and that's early in their lives, make sure you're doing the right things for yourself financially. And so you can volunteer. There's other ways to get involved. It's talent, it's ability, it's all kinds of different things. But hold, frankly, on the giving money away part, or do something on just a sentimental basis, maybe de minimis basis, and do what's right for you. One of my goals growing up, thinking of my own experience, was I wanted to graduate from college, get really serious about my job, and then as I started to have some success, started to use the Dayton Foundation on the charitable checking side. But I look at some of our clients that are now setting up family foundations with the Dayton Foundation, and some people are putting the Dayton Foundation into their wills. So life is a journey, and you don't need to be in a hurry, and you can't do everything. So graduate from school, you know, start giving time and talent, and then later on in life, when it makes sense, maybe start contributing from a financial standpoint.
Cool.
Laura, can I interject on that?
Yes, you may, Angela.
I was thinking about a scenario with my son. A lot of times young people may not have a lot of money to give, but together they can give. Last year, we adopted a family from Homeful at work, and my son heard that we were doing that, and he has a group of friends, and they wanted to do it. So they put together $5 a piece, and they were able to buy a 10-year-old a couple of gifts for Christmas, and I think they were really proud that their $5 could make somebody have a nice Christmas. And you know, they went shopping at the dollar store, so it doesn't take a lot of money to make a donation, to make an impact with somebody. So
That's a really awesome story about how, you know, your son was able to, and that's another great way, I think, to have a bigger impact, is encourage your friends to do it as well. It's a really great piece of advice. We actually have some questions coming from Twitter. So this is from Twitter. How can a young professional who has no connections get involved in the community? Let's ask Olivia. You started out with no connections. How did you get involved?
Absolutely. I had no connections when I moved to Dayton 2.5 years ago from North Carolina. So it was actually really hard. I think that that's something that the nonprofits in the area need to do a better job of, is advertising their needs. But right now, even if you have no connections, you just need to kind of be proactive. If you can start doing some research on your own, if you think about, okay, what am I most interested in, and what do I think I'm the best at helping with, then start looking for an organization that maybe does that, and just be bold and connect with them immediately. Like, reach out to the director, because I promise every nonprofit out there is happy to get help. And so they'll answer your email or your phone call, they'll get back with you. So being really proactive and reaching out directly. But then there's also some of the young professional organizations in the area, Federation, Dayton, UpDayton. They're pretty well connected, or at least the people in those groups are well connected. So if you go in and you tell people, hey, I want to get involved, they'll be ready to connect you and they can help you. And then, as we've said before, that really will help you become more connected as well.
Awesome. Anyone else want to comment on this
Yeah,
question?
Laura, let me comment here briefly.
Sure.
One resource might be is if you were to contact the United Way here locally in your community. They have a volunteer bank where you could contact them and tell them what you're interested in doing, and they may be able to point you in the right direction. The other thing is that there are a lot of events and a lot of activities that, Jamie talked about his golf outing with hospice. But there are organizations who are doing fundraisers all the time. Well, they're not only fundraisers, but they're friend raisers, and that's really what they talk about is being a friend raiser. And so if you have the opportunity to participate in one of these fundraising activities, be sure that you seek out the other volunteers who are there volunteering at these and said, how did you do this? How did you get involved? I'd like to get involved with this organization. And so go out and participate in some of these fundraising activities, talk to the other volunteers, seek out the staff who are there representing the organization, and ask them how you can get involved.
All right, cool. Great. We have another question from Twitter from Alex Pseudo-Smith. He says, how could the YP generation take the lead on social good? Anyone like to take on that question? Angela, you look like you are
I'm dying to jump in.
ready for this one. How can YPs take the lead?
I would say that just really jumping out there and getting involved. I think earlier I talked about not complaining about the problem, but trying to do something about the problem. If young professionals see a need or a problem in their community, get out there and try to figure out ways to help with the solution, whether it's as an individual joining a nonprofit organization that addresses those issues, or bringing together your friends. Young people do a great job of bringing together friends, whether it's in person on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, and saying, hey, this is a need in our community, what are we going to do about it? I know there are several folks who have seen the violence in the community. They've said, we're going to do something about it. They've come together in a non-structured way, approached some of the Dayton public schools and said, hey, we want to help with this problem, and they're mentoring, or they're going in the schools and they're talking with students. So if you see a problem, be motivated to do something about it and engage other folks, and then educate people in your circle. We're always on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, talking about, you guys send pictures of what you ate or where you've been. Send information to your friends about a problem that you see and ask them to help you solve that problem.
I'm using that social media tool for, trying to do a call to action.
Yes.
I have a comment. Yeah, I do. I think that question is probably coming from noticing that a lot of the leadership in many of the nonprofits in the area is generally older people who've been in the community for a long time, and they are really well connected, and they may be CEOs. And so young professionals may not feel like they have reached that point yet, and it's kind of presumptuous to think that they can have a place on that board or in that leadership role. But every group that I know, all the nonprofits, they're all looking for younger board members. They really want that younger perspective, because we bring fresh ideas about ways to do things in a new way. And maybe we've lived in other communities where we saw someone trying something that's never been tried in Dayton, and so we can bring that voice. And part of doing that is, as a young professional, taking yourself seriously and actually giving yourself more credit than I think a lot of us do at this point in our career. But we have seen things, we have ideas, and I'm always surprised at how much people actually do listen to me when I speak up and when I share some ideas that I've had. And people who have 3 times as much experience in their careers as me are listening to me and taking me seriously, is when I realize I don't take myself seriously enough sometimes.
Laura, can I comment on what Olivia just said?
Yes.
I'm an old gray-haired white guy, and I've sat around tables at boardrooms and that type of thing. And one of the things that we've realized is that we're a bunch of old white-haired white guys, and we need young professionals, counsel and advice, and we're seeking it. We're talking about ways at various boards that I sit on. How can we engage the young professionals to serve on our boards, to serve on committees, to help with programming and special events, those kinds of things. We recognize it, and it's very critical that the young professionals do become engaged in all nonprofit organizations. I assure you that the boards that I sit on are not the only ones who recognize the deficiency that exists in the age discrimination that's sitting on boards. We do need younger people to serve on boards, and we value their input. And we know that the life that they're experiencing is so much different from the life that we've experienced, and we need their valuable input. So it's very, very critical to nonprofit organizations.
Yeah, that's really good comments, Joe, and I think that that's a very positive trend that we've seen within UpDayton. We have a lot of nonprofits that reach out to us, looking for younger people to sit on their boards or their committees, but you kind of have to be involved for us to know who you are and who to connect you with. So I think that that's a really good point, especially Olivia saying giving yourself enough credit. Like, yes, I do have valuable opinions, and people want to hear those, and having confidence in that when seeking out nonprofits. We do have another question on the chat feed from Gina. She asks, how do I find area nonprofits that serve causes I am passionate about? I think we touched on some of this before, but if anyone has any other comments on where she could probably look for nonprofits that would fit her passions.
I'll take a shot at this and ask the others to jump in. Again, whatever you're passionate about, the internet's probably one of the first places to start. Look on the internet, serving the homeless in Dayton, Ohio. Trust me, a number of organizations will pop up addressing issues of in the arts or arts organizations, performing arts, visual arts, that kind of thing in the Dayton community. A lot of things will pop up that way. But the best thing to do is to interact with your peers and acquaintances, folks at work, that type of thing, find out what they know. And then lastly, as far as health and human service organizations, contact your local United Way. They can help you, direct you to organizations who are serving those kinds of things. If you're interested in the arts, contact Culture Works. They'll be able to share with you here locally all the different arts organizations that exist. So there are a number of opportunities, but I think somebody said earlier, and I'll reiterate it, don't be shy, be assertive, and go out there. And I think it was Olivia who talked about 2.5 years ago, she didn't know a whole lot about this community, but by being assertive and asking questions has really benefited her. I would think it would be the same way finding the right organization.
Yeah, another thought, it's again, you have to go out and find anything that you're interested in. So that's the challenge of being a small community, is a lot of times opportunities are not thrown at you the way that they are in like a bigger city. Although from experiences, some of my friends who moved to New York after college, sometimes they didn't have that experience either. But if you know what you're looking for, you can always find it. If you really don't know what you're looking for, then you might be able to just go into the library and look at all the flyers that are posted, and inevitably there are going to be events that need volunteers or organizations that are posting about a big event they're doing, and you can go to those and start to see like what happens in this community that you can get involved in. At the library, or I know like the trolley stop in the Oregon district has a bulletin board, and there's flyers and stuff, but just kind of start opening your eyes and see what is already being advertised. And it may not be an instant home run like this is the most amazing organization. I want to give all my time to it, but hopefully it'll start helping you see what's out there and get you connected.
Another thing might be to look at the local newspaper, whether you get a hard copy or online. I think once a week they have a little section that posts nonprofits and what their local needs may be. They may need paper towels, or they may need volunteers for an upcoming event. So looking at your local paper about what organizations might need, and then also just Googling an organization and looking on their website. A lot of them list what their needs are. Recently, a coworker mentioned that her husband was into printmaking as a hobby, and that he was involved with organizations out of the country. And I said, "Oh, we have a local printmaking organization in town. I don't know the name of it, but we sat there and we Googled it, and she was able to find the website and get her husband connected with a local organization that he may have an interest in." So those are a couple of ways that might be helpful also.
Awesome. Good feedback, guys. We have a really good question on here from Estefan Ramirez, Associate Board Member with the Dayton Red Cross. And his questions are, what problems can be encountered when attempting to gather community leaders together with the same goals and have them work together? What are some better ways to facilitate this type of collaboration? So it sounds like his question is really focused on bringing together leaders and using teamwork to address a problem, and how do you facilitate that? So, Jamie, would you have any comments about pertaining to that question?
Well, that's a tough one, and my mind is probably just a little bit blank on that answer. Right? It's something that we talk about at our team from time to time, how to get leaders all marching in the same direction and whatnot, and it's not easy. It's probably maybe easier in some cases for younger people with texting and Twitter and some of the other social media things. That's going to be a young professional contribution. Maybe they can tell us.
Maybe we can. Olivia, would you like to comment on that?
I think if you can get everyone in the same room, that helps, which the busier everyone's schedule is, then that is a challenge sometimes. Even that, I found that it's a challenge. I've had situations where I've pulled together a lot of people and we're all kind of doing similar things, but nothing concrete happens until someone has a really defined, narrow idea. And there's a tendency when you pull a lot of really great thinkers and really influential people into a room, people who have a really wide network, to kind of just think, we can solve all the problems ever, and you just get really excited and you're all like talking and you're just so excited about what you could do, and you don't actually do anything, and then you get kind of disillusioned after a couple of times doing that. So it may take more meeting one-on-one with some of these people and just talking like, what are my assets, what are your assets, what are my talents, what can we do, what do you see as a community that you would be most passionate about, and like, who is your network, who could we connect to? And so I think that you have to have those one-on-one meetings. You've got to do your homework and have a strategy going into it, and then you pull in these other leaders who are very influential. And it's also a great way to respect their time too, because if you come in and you have a really specific ask, I found that people are very generous with their time and their money when there's a really specific, clear focus. Like you're asking, you're making a pitch to someone for $1,000 sponsorship for something, and they can say real quickly, yes, we can do that, or no, we can't do that at this time, but let me connect you to something else. But if you went in to a meeting with a leader or an influencer and you said, I just have this great idea, I want to fix this problem, but we don't know exactly what we're doing, and if you had money, that'd be great, but you probably don't. Like, that pitch just doesn't work.
Yeah, that's some good thoughts about taking an assessment of what talents you have around the table and what actions you can actually take. Does anyone else have any experience on a board where trying to get everyone to go in the same direction, and any challenges that you faced?
Well,
do you have any comments?
I have recently had that experience, and I think what helped us is when we really identified what the one problem was. As Olivia mentioned, you can be all over the place until we were able to identify what the true problem was then we were able to come up with a couple of suggestions or solutions to that one problem. And then through problem solving, strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, threats, SWOT analysis, we came up with a solution to the problem. But we spent most of our time, we realized quickly that we were all over the place, identifying what was the core of the problem, what was the real true problem. Once we identified the true problem, then we worked together and we brainstormed what could be the possible solutions. And then once we came up with the list of solutions, we quickly had to narrow that down to the final solution out of the 3 or 4 that we came up with. So I think you spend most of your time identifying the problem through brainstorming together, coming up with what that problem is, and then coming up with multiple solutions, and then narrowing that down to what is going to be the final thing that's going to solve that problem.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice, and something that a tool that UpDayton has used that's been really helpful is compression planning. Those facilitators are really skilled at getting your groups to come to a consensus, and I know Sinclair has one of her workforce development extra classes on it, and there are facilitators out there in the region that are good to tap into. So that's something that I can think of as a tool that's been really helpful for our organization. I think we're going to take this final question here from social media from Corey Miller, and then we'll go into our final question, final thoughts from our panelists, and then a few reminders, and we'll sign off. So Corey asks, how can we convince more figureheads and community leaders to embrace and take part in social media? Anyone have any thoughts?
Intensive training on how to use it. That's a challenge. Speaking for myself, it can be a challenge.
Well, the other thing is, and Jamie's right, by the way. The other thing is, if you're not embracing social media, you're ultimately not going to be successful, because everybody takes a look at the demographics and where, and what's happening. And everybody thinks, well, this is just a young person's medium. Well, it's not. The fastest growing demographic using the internet is people 70 years of age and older. So you have got to embrace it if you think that you're going to, if you plan to be successful, and if you think you're going to be successful. Any organization that thinks it's going to be successful has already embraced technology and has already been embraced social media in order to be successful. Here at the Dayton Foundation, we realized that a number of years ago, and we're doing things right now that were unimaginable just 5 years ago here at the Dayton Foundation. But we realized that different people were accessing information about us in a lot of different mediums, and we had to be prepared to for them to be able to find us when they were looking for us, be it on Twitter or some other social media vehicle.
I also think that some people are nervous about getting involved in social media because some of the platforms are less self-explanatory about how you're supposed to use them, or there's this sense that like you need to have really great content that you're sharing, or else why are you on there at all? I just experienced it in my office at the Dayton Business Journal. We started an email thread, and it was about Twitter, and somebody was just like, I'm really scared of Twitter. I don't know what I'm supposed to be tweeting about, or how to really use it, or also what is hashtag. And it wasn't, I mean, it was all across the board with ages in our office. And I've had to use Twitter for work, and I've gotten better at it in 2.5 years. So I just volunteered to do a tiny little class about it over lunch one day. And everyone from the office came, which I thought it was just me, like 2 people. And so I just shared what I had learned and some Twitter accounts that I like, because there's some out there that I follow, and I'm so amazed at how they have so much funny stuff to say, or like good commentary, and it makes me happy. But my experience was that after that class, a lot of people in the group felt a lot more comfortable being on Twitter and understood it better. So sometimes that may just be the issue, why people are reluctant to be on social media. They're intimidated by it. So you just volunteer. Any advice you have to share, you'll probably find people who are really interested in hearing it, and they actually would love to be involved, but there's just a little bit of an intimidation factor.
So it sounds like Olivia is going to be bringing classes to community leaders coming soon. All right, so bringing back the focus specifically to giving, I want everyone to kind of give their final thoughts on this question. Technically, we're out of time, but they said I could go a little bit over. So what would you say to individuals who say they don't have enough time or money to be charitable? Joe, we'll start with you.
Enough time or money to be charitable. You can be charitable just in your actions on a daily basis. You know, you can be charitable by helping somebody across the street or helping an elderly person carry a bag of groceries or whatever. You know, you can be charitable in a lot of different ways, just in the way you live your life, just in the way you teach your children about how they should lead their lives. And so if you genuinely and truly don't have time, you don't have the financial resources, you can certainly demonstrate your charitable character by how you live your life and by how you demonstrate how you live your life to your children.
Great. Jamie.
Yeah, I agree with Joe completely. And Angela, I think, said at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be a massive financial commitment. It can be $5. It can be pooling a bunch of people together and saying, we collectively are going to do this. So I struggle a little bit with the money thing because I understand how difficult it is out there in the economy and what have you. But there's just a lot of things that you can do over some time. I really do believe in the precept of whatever you give, whether it's time, talent, or treasure, you'll get it back tenfold.
That's great advice, Jamie. Angela?
For me, if you have an hour a week, that can make a difference in someone's life. You can mentor a young person, help them read, help them complete a project in school, 1 hour a week. We all have time that we waste watching TV or doing other things that we could be more productive with our time. The other thing is if your resources are limited and you may have $5 extra to give an organization or $100. Some of these small nonprofits in town, that can make a huge impact. I quickly learned that when I was connected with some smaller entities, that $100 was a major gift, and I did not know that. So finding those organizations that you feel like you could really make an impact, whether it's with your time or your finances, they're out there. Look for them and get involved.
That's a great piece of advice, especially, thinking about, what contributions are really going to have an impact, and even giving a small amount a month can make a big difference for especially some of our smaller nonprofits. Olivia, any final thoughts?
Everyone's covered a lot of it. The only thing I would add is, there are times in your life where you absolutely don't have any extra time to give, and so maybe the middle of grad school finals or whatever, like that's just not the right time for you. There will be another time when you can give your time. But also, perhaps even in the middle of feeling like your life is really crazy, there's actually stuff you can be doing. There's just a different perspective you could take. Like, I don't know, I'm really involved with rock climbing. I was just thinking, like, oh, maybe I could, like, try to teach other people to rock climb. There you go, I'm giving, and I'm still doing rock climbing. Just taking a little different perspective on what you are doing and keeping your eyes open for ways that you can get back to what you're already doing. And then just also sometimes being realistic that, like, right now is not a good time, but my life is going to get simpler in a little bit, a couple months or a year or something, and that's when I'm going to look right now for the stuff that I would love to get involved with at that point. So kind of do some of the preparation right now.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for participating in today's live chat. I'd like to thank our panelists. I hope everyone is applauding for them at home. Wherever you are. And I do want to thank the Dayton Foundation for putting this together, Dayton Inspires, UpDayton. If you're inspired to make a difference today, we hope you'll use some of those resources that we talked about today, whether it's United Way or Googling your passion and trying to get connected in Dayton. We do have some suggestions. If you're still thinking of stuff, of ways that you can get involved, Dayton Inspires is always looking for folks to share the campaign, be awareness raisers, carry it on. So if you're posting about good things in Dayton, use the hashtag Dayton Inspires, like them on Facebook. If you're interested in getting involved or want to know more, UpDayton has volunteer orientations every second Tuesday of the month. Even if you're not necessarily interested in UpDayton, we can still connect you to a lot of great things. So the next one is January 13th at 7 p.m. at Brick Size Company. If you should miss that one, they're always the second Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. At Bricks. You'll be able to find us. Closing thoughts and reminders. This live chat will be on the web, on YouTube, if you want to share it or refer back to it at any time. Again, thank you for watching and have a great day. Happy giving.